In this video, I'm going to be giving you my review of the Neato D7. If you stick around till the end, I'll also show you how to set it up with your Amazon Echo and how to integrate it with your Home Assistant. Check it out. What is going on, guys? For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mark and this is my YouTube channel. So this channel is all about tech, smart home and Home Assistant. I think this video is actually my first proper tech review for this channel, and it's not actually a traditional review as such, and if you keep watching, you'll find out why. We're going to start off by looking at what the D7 is. We're then going to look at what the product claims it can do and what it can actually do. We'll then look at my user experience with the product, and then we'll follow that up then, as it's a smart product. We'll look at how we can integrate that into our smart home, and we'll do this with the Amazon Echo and Home Assistant. So what is the D7? The D7 is a domestic robot created by robotic manufacturer Neato Robotics. Neato specialise in creating robotic vacuums for home use. This particular robot is part of their D series of robot vacuums. The D7 has a stylish design and is shaped like a D, which is probably why it's called the D series. Who knows? Now, Neato claim that this D shape is more effective than the traditional circular shaped robots because this D shape allows it to get into corners and you have a longer front end, so a bigger brush, and that supposedly gives it 70% better effectiveness at cleaning up all those little dusties. Which kind of makes sense. A bigger brush, more dusties that you can clean up, I guess. Okay, navigation wise, the D7 uses LiDAR technology in order to help it navigate around your home. It can also make use of the standard magnetic tape, which the majority of robotic vacuums use now, and this magnetic tape allows you to just put down a strip on the floor and the robot will stay away from that, so you can mark out an area you don't want the robot to go and clean. With the mobile app, you can also draw no-go lines on your defined floor plan, and what this allows you to do is to just mark areas on your floor plan and the robot will avoid these areas, kind of like the magnetic tape, but virtually. And it will do its best to try and avoid these areas, but note there the word try. The first time you use the D7, it's going to map out your floor and allow you to create this floor plan. With this floor plan, you can then divide the room up and mark out specific zones or areas on your floor plan. So for example, you could mark an area which is the kitchen and an area that is your front room. And you do all of this control with the Neato mobile app, and this app is available on iOS and Android. So the app is the primary way to communicate and control the robot, unless you're using a voice assistant like the Echo or Google Home. Another nice thing about mapping the floor is the robot can actually remember, I think, 3 different levels of floor. So you can have a floor plan for each floor in your house, and then the robot will remember those. And last up, pretty much like all other robots on the market, the D7 has an internal battery, and it intelligently knows when it needs to be charged. It will go home and it will go back to its dock, charge it up, and then it will either finish its cleaning cycle or be finished. That's a very high level look at the robot's features. If you are maybe interested in this robot, you should probably go and read up a bit more on the Neato website for a full technical description. One of the cool features about the robot is LiDAR, and I've just brushed over that totally, but what it basically does is allows the robot to shoot out laser beams and map your house. Although I don't think Neato advertise it as a robot that shoots out laser beams. Maybe they should. I'm not going to go into all the technical specifications of the robot. I'm not trying to sell you the thing. This is just my own honest review and experience with the robot. So all you need to know is it's a robot, it cleans, it's got an internal battery and will go back to its dock. It can navigate very well. It picks up husky hair super well. And no matter how nicely you ask it, it will not make you a sandwich. So for a bit of clarity, here's a trailer from the Neato website showing off the D7 and all those features that I just spoke about. So we've got the laser navigation there. We've got the no-go lines that I spoke about. The super suction. What else have we got? We've got the cool D shape that you can see in the video. We've got the cool phone app to set up and control the robot. We've got the breakfast cleanup. I hope you don't drop that much breakfast when you eat breakfast. The multi-floor, the robot returning to its dock, the charger. Yeah. Wait, what? You've just showed me a trailer of the D7 from the Neato website. What? There is definitely something missing here. Ooh, is it the subscription? You haven't subscribed to the channel and dong the little notification bell. Nah, it's not that. I've got it. It's the D7. You just seen a robot trailer for the D7? Mark, where's your robot? Where's your D7? Show me your D7 right now. Whip it out. I want to see your D7 right now. There will be no D7 viewing on this channel. So you're telling me you're reviewing a product without the product? What? Well, do you remember right at the beginning of the video, I said I was doing a not a traditional review? Well, this is exactly what I mean. So to explain why we're doing a product review without a product, we're going to need to go back in time at least 2 months. I want to start a YouTube channel, but I'm not sure what I'd call it. Mark's Mighty Tech? Nah. Mark's Cool Tech? Nah. My Neato's here! My Neato's here! I unpacked the box and decided I didn't need to read the instructions because nobody needs those. Just kidding, I read this thing back to front. No, literally, I read it back to front. A quick read of the quick start guide let me know everything I needed to know about the Neato D7. After a few minutes, I had the Neato app installed and I was able to fully control the robot from my phone. The floor plan was mapped out and I could send the robot to various rooms in my house. Not long after this, I had Neato integrated into my HomeAssistant. I wrote a few scripts that would allow me to control the robot using HomeAssistant. This was super awesome. I could say, go and clean the kitchen, and the D7 would navigate to the kitchen and do its job. And for a time, this ran like clockwork. The robot would go out when we weren't home. I could send it to a room based on a voice command or by pressing a button in HomeAssistant. There's just something super satisfying about asking your robot to go and clean the front room and then watching it leave its dock and go and do what you asked it to do. And this is where the song changes tune. The D7 is supposed to be capable of connecting to both the 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz networks. My D7 was in the same room as the wireless router and it was constantly disconnecting from it. Whenever the D7 disconnected from the network, it would never automatically reconnect. I'd have to open up the phone app and repair the robot to the app. This would happen every couple of days and I'd have to go through this cumbersome process of resetting the robot and reconnecting it with the app. These disconnects would render the robot useless. It wouldn't be controllable by HomeAssistant and it wouldn't answer or accept any of the Alexa voice commands without any internet. The robot also wouldn't be able to download its latest floor plan, so it wouldn't know where to navigate, so it would just aimlessly roam around if you used the buttons on the top to send it out. One day the robot just would not connect to the network at all. It couldn't even see the Wi-Fi being broadcast, and if I manually entered the SSID, it still wouldn't connect. By this point, I just had enough. I reached out to Neato customer support and had to wait a couple of hours to speak to an advisor. The advisor I spoke to was super friendly and very knowledgeable, but unfortunately, all of the fixes they suggested just didn't work. During my conversation with this advisor, I found a really convoluted way of doing a factory reset of the D7. This reset actually worked for me and I was able to connect to my Wi-Fi and go back to normal. I would have liked to have said that that's where my issues ended, but it's actually where they started. So after doing this factory reset, the robot was okay for a few days, and then the Wi-Fi disconnection issue started up again. So I was back to this cumbersome process of reconnecting the robot with the app every single time the robot disconnected. One evening, I used a voice command to send out the robot to just tidy up the front room after dinner. As soon as the robot left the dock, I knew there was an issue. The robot was making a horrible metallic clanking sound. I'd never heard this before, and I just assumed that it was something caught in the robot's brush. I thought maybe it hoovered up one of the kids' toys or something like that. I flipped the robot over, I looked for any obvious debris and checked all the brushes and sensors, but couldn't see anything. I started the robot back up and listened closely, and I could tell that this metallic clanking noise was coming from inside the robot. It was almost as if it was a kind of motor or something. So again, I queued for a couple of hours waiting to speak to a Neato customer advisor. Unfortunately for me, I got an advisor this time that wasn't so helpful and wasn't so friendly. When I explained my issue about the Wi-Fi disconnection and this horrible metallic noise, they didn't seem to really care. After going round and round in circles with this advisor for a couple of hours, they kind of just pied me off and told me they'd be in touch through email to help resolve my issue. I expressed to the advisor that this had been going on for a couple of weeks, and again, they didn't care. I even said that I would just return the product and get my money back, and still they didn't care. After wasting my evening doing this, I just decided I'd get in touch with Amazon, who I originally bought the D7 off, and see if they could do anything about it. Amazon, being the super company they are, offered to replace the product and also apologised for Neato's poor service. So Amazon apologised to me for something they have no control over. As the Neato service was so poor, Amazon offered to just exchange the device and they sent me out a new one and I returned the old one. I was looking forward to getting a new D7 because I actually really liked all the features and the look and style of the device. It's just a shame that it had so many issues and that the customer support was so poor. With my new Neato, I planned to create a full review video. I was going to show an unboxing, the setup of the phone app, and the setup of the floor plan and also my HomeAssistant scripts. So I started filming these things. I recorded the app setup process on my phone. The new Neato robot was connected to the Neato services and was ready to make its first trip around my house. I sent the robot out to map its first floor plan and it literally got a couple of feet and then reported a fault. The fault said that it was stuck and asked me to pick it up and move it a couple of feet and then put it back down. I did this and the robot failed to do anything, it just sat there. I tried this a couple of times and each time it did the same thing. It wasn't looking good. I persisted with this and eventually it got a bit further away from its dock. I noticed that this Neato was super quiet. In comparison to the one that I sent back, that one sounded like a jet, but I didn't mind because you could actually feel the air blowing out of the vacuum and it felt like it was powerful and actually doing something. But this one was eerily quiet. You could hear the brush touching the floor, but that was about it. I put my hand towards the back vent and I couldn't feel any air flowing out. I thought at first maybe it's in eco mode. I looked in the app settings and saw it was in turbo mode, which is the D7's most powerful cleaning mode. And that's when I realised that the vacuum was actually not sucking up anything at all. So this brand new D7 that I just unboxed, I started filming parts for to create this awesome review, didn't work. And at this point I just totally had enough. I didn't care how big its D shape was, how many lasers it could shoot out, how many dust bunnies it could pick up. I just didn't care anymore. I was just done with this product. This time round, I didn't even bother going back to Neato. The last customer experience I had with them was so poor that I just couldn't be bothered to waste my time. I got in touch with Amazon and I told them the previous issues I'd had with the last vacuum and all the issues that I was having with this one, and they just set up a return and I returned the item and I had my money back. And that brings us back to the here and now. Goodbye, Neato. So the Neato's gone and I've had my money back from Amazon, and since having my money back I've actually bought an older vacuum that I originally used to use, and that's just a more basic robotic vacuum, but it's more reliable and it still kind of does what I need. Now it doesn't have all the flashy fancy features that the Neato has, but it's an entry-level robot and it does enough. And the wife approval factor of it is massive because it's reliable, it goes out and just does what it needs to do. We don't have any of these disconnection errors. And a happy wife means a happy life. Gadgets, it means more gadgets. It means you can buy more gadgets without your wife getting upset. Now, this has been a bit of a strange old video because it's not really a traditional review, but it's not really not a review, if that makes sense. It's more my sort of user experience with the Neato and Neato's customer service, and, you know, a bit of contrast, and then they're just a bit like smushed together. As this is a tech channel, I do want to do more of the kind of traditional style reviews in the future, but it's been a bit hard to do that kind of a thing without the product, and I didn't want to just, you know, have images of the thing and just me talk about it throughout, so I went for something a little different. I'm by no means writing the product off, saying it's a terrible product or anything like that. I mean, if you've got one and it works for you, then great, because I really liked it as a product, and it looks good. When it worked, it was really good, and there were just so many cool things it could do, but in my own experience, I've had it and it hasn't been reliable and it hasn't worked. 2 of them haven't worked. Let's wrap this up then. I'm going to give you 4 pros and 4 cons from my own experience. I'll then just give you a quick little summary, and I'll follow this up by telling you how you can get the device set up on your Amazon Echo using the Alexa skills, and then I'll tell you how you can get the device set up in HomeAssistant using the integration, and I'll show you a couple of the scripts that I've created in order to control the robot. First up then is the pickup. Now this thing had really good pickup. I've got a husky and he's constantly getting his floof everywhere, and this thing would go out and it would just, you know, suck all that stuff up. And I could safely say that if the Neato had been out a few times in the day, then that would really help keep on top of that. Number 2 is the battery life. This thing's got really good battery life. It can do multiple cleans of my house, and I've only got a small house, but it could do multiple cleans compared to some of the other robotic vacuums that I've had and used, where that could only go out like 1 and a bit times, even on the most powerful mode. Number 3 then, which is a super important one, is the Home Assistant integration. Now this thing's got really good Home Assistant integration. You can obviously write scripts for it like I did. You can have like a map on your dashboard to see where it went. You can get the power state. You can do things like have like a little running log to see when it went out, when it last went out, all those kinds of things. And you can have that all on a nice Home Assistant dashboard. So last up, number 4, is the actual D shape. Now, not only is this like a unique and stylish design compared to the traditional circular robots, the actual D shape actually really does help. It really does actually help it get into the corners as advertised. Next up is the cons. So obviously I had a couple of them and both of them had faults. That could be, I don't know, maybe I was unlucky and got a dodgy batch. The second time round, when I had to get in touch with the customer service, the person I spoke to just didn't care, they wasn't helpful and just not interested. But that's not down to the hardware and the actual robot itself. That's down to the, customer service. But the customer service is part of the company. But I'll put that aside because it's not the robot's fault. The robot didn't make that person not help me. Okay, let's go with 4 cons then that are to do with the actual robot itself. So first up, I've gone with there's not a bin detector. Now, for the actual price of it, it's not a cheap thing. I would have liked the robot to have a bin detector to tell me that the actual thing is full. Now, within the actual Neato app, there is a setting where you can set a time, and after the robot's been out for this time length that you set, it will actually just tell you it needs to be emptied. With that timing feature, I found that if you'd been in and hoovered yourself and the robot had been out a couple of times and you hadn't walked around your house chucking your breakfast everywhere, that the actual bin would be empty. So it would report the bin needs to be emptied, even though it wasn't. Number 2 then is the Wi-Fi disconnects. Now, this plagued my first robot where it would just constantly disconnect. And doing some Googling and checking the forums, lots of people have had this issue. It'd be interesting if you're watching this video and you've got a Neato robot, if you have or have had these Wi-Fi issues. But the fact that it didn't just automatically reconnect itself was such a pain, and it wasn't really like a simple process. You had to, like press and hold the side, hold the button down, and once you'd done that, it would go into pairing mode. You'd have to get the phone app out and blah, blah, blah. And if you've got multiple disconnects constantly happening, it becomes such a chore and such a pain. Number 3 then is backing up. So for some reason, when the Neato hits something, if there's something behind it, it actually kind of like reverses up it and it physically like backs up and mounts the thing. And this could either cause damage to whatever it was backing up on, or the actual Neato would get stuck like, half mounted up something. My 4th and final con then is the reliability of the robot. When the robot goes out to clean, it moves a short distance away from its dock and then it does a little scan to check where it is. It checks this against the floor plan to see whether the device has moved or not. Now, I'd never moved it and the dock would never move, and more often than not the robot would go out and then it would come back and say that it failed because it's moved. Another unreliable thing about the robot was the actual no-go lines. So these lines drawn onto the floor plan, my robot would often just ignore these. And when you combine these things with the Wi-Fi disconnects, it just makes it such a faff. I could easily then spend an hour or so trying to resync the robot and get it all working again, at which point I would get shouted at by the wife for not doing the hoovering because I was messing with this robot. So in short, would I recommend the Neato to somebody? Because of the issues that I've had and the experience that I've had, I'm going to say no. And all of that boils down to all of the cons that I mentioned and having this bad experience with the customer service. Now, if that second robot that I got actually worked, I actually still would be saying the same thing because I still had all these previous cons and issues with the first robot. It's just that after the end of that review, I'd have a nice robot still. If you're planning on getting a Neato or you've already got one and you want to know how to integrate this into your smart home, let's have a look at 2 ways you can do that now. Let's start with the Amazon Echo then, because this one's super simple. On your phone or whatever device you've got the Alexa app installed on, if you just click onto skills and do a search for Neato, you'll find the Neato skill, and it's literally just a case of searching for Neato and clicking install. You'll then be prompted to enter your Neato credentials and Amazon will take care of the rest. Once you've done that, you'll be able to control your device by using some of these voice commands here. Cheaping out on the Home Assistant setup and install as well then. A few weeks back I created this video, and in that video I show you how to set up the new OAuth 2 integration for the Neato. There'll be a link for this in the top right and also in the description below. So if you want to get your Neato set up, you will need to use this new OAuth 2 method. For anyone that's interested, this is what the actual Home Assistant integration looks like once you've got your Neato connected. So if you check out that OAuth 2 video, this is what you'll end up with. We can see here we've got a list of different entities. So we can see our actual vacuum, its battery level, the actual map, which is nice. Once it finished cleaning, you actually get a picture of where it went. That's quite cool to have on your dashboard. Over here on the right then, we've got some scripts that I created. And I created these scripts in order to make use of the zone control. And what this does is I could tell the robot to go to a specific room and go and clean it. And it would go and clean that room and then go back to its dock. This was by far one of my favorite features when it worked. And I'll just quickly show you one of those scripts now. So it's pretty straightforward. I basically just make use of the custom cleaning command, and you pick the robot you want to send and the zone. And as long as this zone name here matches the zone that you label it in the app, it will just go to it. That's a quick look at that then. If you want any more details on how to do any of this, feel free to drop me a comment below and I'll help you get this set up for yourself. Just to take these scripts one step further then, if your Home Assistant is accessible via the cloud, you can actually expose these scripts to the cloud. And by doing this, you can share this with the Amazon Echo and actually sync it to the Echo. And when you do that, the Echo sees this as a scene, so you can actually create a custom routine within the Echo that allows you to trigger one of these scripts in Home Assistant through your voice. For example, I could say, Alexa, clean the kitchen, and then the robot would just go to the kitchen by itself and do that. And there we have it, guys, my not so traditional kind of review thing. I wanted to create this to sort of kick off the techie things for my channel. Originally, I obviously planned it differently. It was going to be a review and then, things took a turn for the worst. But rather than just delete the integration and remove the app and just forget about it, I thought I'd do something where I could, share it. Maybe somebody will find this useful. If you have enjoyed the video, then please hit that subscribe button. If you press the little notification bell, you'll also be alerted to whenever I bring out a new video. This was the first kind of techie thing for my channel, but for future videos, you can expect proper product demos, setups, and proper information and descriptions about the device. Thank you for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next one. Cheers.